Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Avery McCrae and here are today's top stories. Well, it's a crisis that is nearing the tipping point as almost half the population of Bearskin Lake First Nation have now tested positive for COVID-19. The community has just over 24 staff and volunteers who are not infected and trying to keep those quarantining supplied and safe. But as Adam Riley reports, despite multiple requests for military support, including one from the province, no such help has arrived yet.
On December 29th, Bearskin Lake First Nation Chief Lefty Kamenawatamin declared a state of emergency in his community. At the time, there were 43 cases. Since then, the situation has spiraled out of control, with almost half of the population of 400 now infected.
We're almost at the breaking point. I think people are exhausted, I guess, emotionally and physically.
There have been multiple requests for military support, including one from Ontario Solicitor General Sylvia Jones to assist the remaining 30 uninfected staff members as they support those in quarantine. Kamenawatamin was helping do that himself, but was sidelined when his son tested positive on Monday. New Democrat MP Charlie Angus doesn't understand why the community is still waiting for help.
This is a community that has reached out to the federal government, asked for a week now to have the military come in with logistical support in order to keep people safe. This is a pretty straightforward request.
Earlier this week, Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu confirmed close to $1 million in funding support to deal with the crisis in Bearskin Lake. Nishnawbe Aski Nation Grand Chief Derek Fox calls the situation in his home community unprecedented and is urging the federal government to step up beyond what it has so far.
We acknowledge that the federal government has made funding commitments to Bearskin Lake. Crisis response in remote First Nations, however, is not measured in just dollars and cents. It's not just about submitting proposals and receiving funding. Once again, it's about having people on the ground to help.
While no military assistance has arrived, other communities across the Northwest have come to the aid of Bearskin Lake, with snowmobile convoys from nearby First Nations making 3-hour trips in -30 weather, delivering supplies. Fortunately, the outbreak has not proven fatal and no one has required a medevac out of the community, but there are concerns for what the future holds.
But I think since our elders have been tested positive now and this week, I don't know what to expect now.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
A COVID-19 outbreak has been declared at the Thunder Bay District Jail. It is considered a facility-wide with approximately 24 staff and inmates infected with the virus. Many new regulations are in effect as a result, including limiting contact with officers and movement throughout the facility. President of Ontario Public Service Employees Union Local 737, Bill Hayes, says the rising number of inmates and overcrowding make the situation significantly more difficult to manage.
The problem with that is we run out of our intake space and we're forced to house them together because we can't transfer anybody out and our general population is full. So it's basically we're kind of stuck.
At this time, 18 of those infected with COVID-19 are inmates. An outbreak at the facility in early 2020 saw more than 200 individuals infected with the virus. Despite the recent reductions in PCR testing around the province, the Thunder Bay and Northwestern health units continue to see huge numbers of confirmed cases of COVID-19. In the Thunder Bay district, there are 161 new cases being reported today. 148 of them are in the Thunder Bay area, while the other 13 are in district or First Nation communities. The number of active cases now sits at 265, and according to the Thunder Bay Regional, the number of COVID patients in hospital was up 1 to 15 today, and the number of COVID patients in the ICU remains at 2. Over in the NWHU's catchment area, there are 126 new cases and, sadly, 3 new deaths being reported. A whopping 80 of the new cases are in the Sioux Lookout area, while 32 are in Kenora. There are also new cases in Fort Francis, Dryden, Rainy River, Atikokan, and Red Lake. Well, a record-breaking 2,472 people are now hospitalized with COVID-19 across Ontario. That's nearly 200 more than yesterday, and the number of individuals in the ICU has jumped from 319 to 338. The province is also reporting 11,899 new cases, but that's considered to be an underestimate. Turning now to the effort to help businesses that have been hit hard by the latest round of restrictions, the Ford government announced new financial support today. But as Colin DeMillo tells us, the money won't come right away.
Tens of thousands of Ontario businesses forced by the Ford government to shut their doors now qualify for financial support.
Each business that's been closed down is going to receive a $10,000 grant.
The Ford government is launching a $230 million program to give 23,000 businesses grants of $10,000. That includes restaurants and bars, facilities for indoor sports and recreational fitness, performing arts and cinemas, museums, galleries, aquariums, zoos and science centers, meetings and event spaces, tour and guide services, and before and after school programs. The government says businesses like hair salons, which face capacity limits, will receive other supports as well.
We're providing property tax and electricity relief to those businesses. So they do qualify up to 50%.
But businesses that qualify will only get the money in February, which critics say is far too late. And the NDP says $10,000 isn't fair to some businesses that stand to lose much more.
They could have taken the time, made the effort to identify the different types of businesses that are being impacted, the scale of those businesses, the losses that they're experiencing.
And what about eligibility? The government says businesses will get the funds, no questions asked.
This is cash. This is not, no conditions attached. This isn't loan forgiveness. We're giving you money.
But the last time the government gave out money, more than $200 million went to businesses that didn't qualify, according to the Auditor General. Critics say the government has to make sure the program is airtight.
We don't need to see perfection, but we need to make sure that the support and the funding is actually going to those who need it the most.
And after repeated closures, business owners say the government needs to also help with the recovery.
Just not look at a short-term solution just to get us through the lockdown period with some subsidies. It's how are we going to inject confidence into consumer behaviors.
And incentivizing people to spend, some believe, will help those businesses in the long term.
And when it comes to those business grants, the Ford government is allocating $230 million to the program. Each business will get $10,000 flat, meaning 23,000 Ontario businesses will get the benefit. Well, with new restrictions put into place over the holidays, we talked to one early childhood educator who is frustrated about the provincial government taking away testing options for child care centres while schools are fully covered. Before Christmas, when the new regulations and restrictions took place, child care centres followed the same rules as schools. But now, registered early childhood educator Lauren Dewar says ECE teachers and students have been excluded from the list to get COVID tests at the centres or rapid tests sent home. Dewar says this is a problem, especially in child care centres, with many young children unable to wear masks or be vaccinated, and now not be able to be tested either. With the new 5-day quarantine rule, she says centres could quickly run out of staff if an outbreak occurs. Dewar says she and others in the industry have reached out to the provincial government about their concerns, but feel like they are being pushed to the side with schools set right now as the main focus.
We matter too. Without us, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that would not be able to go to work. We are these children's first line of education. We are these children's first entrance into a learning environment. We are the place that they come to be safe and healthy and to be cared for. And unfortunately, it's becoming increasingly difficult for us.
On January 11th and 13th, the Thunder Bay District Health Unit will dedicate 2 COVID-19 vaccination clinics for ECE and school board employees to get their booster shots. Dewar says they were also told over Christmas they were getting a shipment of N95 masks, but have yet to see any materialize. The city's 5 at-large councillors held a virtual town hall last night with some significant topics on the agenda. Policing in Thunder Bay, the designated truck route, and of course the 2022 budget all played a part in the evening's discussions. Vasilios Bellows has the story.
The 2022 draft budget currently includes $1.8 million in spending increases that were requested by the Thunder Bay Police Service and their board, but one city councillor wants to see that number even higher. At Thursday night's virtual at-large town hall, Councillor Aldo Ruberto says he will push to add another $1 million in police spending in the 2022 budget, allocated to where he feels it would be needed most.
They're overworked, they're overstressed, and they need more help. So if we could get for the next 5 years, put $1 million in the budget to continue that operation directed only at the frontline police officers, I'm hoping that we can shrink the drug issue to some degree.
Discussions then shifted to a proposal for a new police headquarters. Currently, the police department wants the city to commit $56 million to a new building in the 2022 budget. Councillor Mark Bentz weighed in, stating he understands the call for improvements.
I've taken the opportunity to tour the police facility, and there is a need for improvement there. There's no question. I think the decision the community needs to make is should we refurbish what we have and maybe add on to it, or do we build brand new?
Meanwhile, Councillor Trevor Gertuga provided an overview of the history of the designated truck route. Gertuga once again stressed the increased safety he believes the DTR provides, specifically mentioning trucks running lights on Highway 102 and the Thunder Bay Expressway. Gertuga explained a final decision probably won't come too quickly.
Right now, we're kind of at a political stalemate, I guess, because the new procedures that are passed were not in place at the time. So I think ultimately we'll probably end up waiting until the new council a year from now, or less than a year from now, to make a decision on it. I don't see anything further happening at this point. And unfortunately, and some people may not say this is a fair statement, but it is a factual statement.
The 2022 budget, including the police funding and potential new headquarters, will be debated in the upcoming weeks, with council approving a budget on February 7th. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
Well, if you find yourself traveling down Red River Road, you might be surprised to find a snowy, prehistoric creature waiting for you on the side of the street. A Thunder Bay resident has taken it upon himself to carve a large dinosaur sculpture out of snow, causing heads to turn for those driving or walking down the street. The 60-foot-long sculpture took Bruce Clemons about 3 weeks to create, and he says he's not done yet. Clemons says he still wants to move the head with hopes of lengthening the neck to make it look more accurate to the giant marine lizard.
I thought I'd try my hand at a sculpture, a lot of available snow, and the cold weather. This is a plesiosaurus in the making, and there will be some refinements coming up. A lot of the coloring came from tea. I boiled a lot of tea up and poured it, so it gave it a caramel effect.
If you want to catch a glimpse of the snow sculpture, you can find it on the corner of Red River Road and Clarkson Street North. Well, Fiona, I'm going to guess that